Silence after a breakup doesn't feel empty because of loneliness alone. It feels dangerous because your nervous system suddenly lost the emotional signals that once regulated safety, connection, and internal stability. Your body was conditioned to her presence as a stabilizing signal, and when that signal disappears, the nervous system interprets the silence as loss of safety rather than simple emotional absence. This is why the quiet feels louder than arguments, louder than conflict, and heavier than the breakup itself, because your system is suddenly deprived of the regulation it depended on. The mind begins to scan for threat, for meaning, for reassurance, because emotional regulation was previously outsourced to the relationship, and now the system has lost its anchor. What you experience as obsession is often the nervous system attempting to reestablish emotional regulation, not weakness, not dependency, but a biological drive to restore equilibrium. Silence removes feedback, and without feedback, the brain spirals into prediction, imagination, and catastrophic interpretation, trying to fill the void with explanations that often intensify anxiety. This is why unanswered messages, unseen activity, and emotional distance trigger more distress than direct rejection, because the nervous system cannot calibrate without clear information. Your body is not longing for her personality. It is reacting to the sudden withdrawal of emotional cues that once stabilized heart rate, breathing, an internal sense of security. This withdrawal mirrors physical detox, where the system craves the lost regulator and interprets its absence as threat, producing agitation, fixation, and emotional dysregulation. The silence is not neutral. It is interpreted as abandonment by the primitive brain, which evolved to treat social disconnection as a survival-level danger. This is why your thoughts loop, replay, analyze, and search for meaning, because the nervous system is attempting to regain control over emotional unpredictability. Anxiety increases because uncertainty removes your ability to emotionally prepare, and the brain prefers painful clarity over silent unpredictability. Silence removes relational mirrors, and without reflection, the sense of self destabilizes, leaving the mind to question worth, value, and personal reality. This is not emotional weakness. It is a regulation injury, where the system must learn to stabilize without the external emotional reference point it relied on. Your chest tightens, your thoughts race, and your attention fixates because the nervous system is attempting to restore coherence through connection. Without emotional regulation, the mind confuses attachment with survival, making absence feel like danger instead of transition. Silence forces you to confront internal chaos without external soothing, exposing how much emotional stability had been outsourced to the relationship. This creates the urge to check, monitor, and seek reassurance, because your system is searching for signals that regulation can return. The deeper pain is not the loss of the person, but the loss of emotional homeostasis that the relationship once provided. This is why even strong men feel destabilized, because regulation loss is physiological, not a failure of character or discipline. Recovery begins when you stop interpreting anxiety as weakness and start understanding it as a system relearning how to self-regulate. Silence becomes tolerable only when internal regulation replaces external reassurance and emotional stability is rebuilt from within. This requires structure, routine, and disciplined self-soothing to teach the nervous system that safety no longer depends on her presence. Emotional regulation must become internal, not relational, allowing silence to exist without triggering threat responses. The obsession fades when the system no longer needs external input to stabilize its internal emotional environment. You stop chasing clarity when your body no longer perceives silence as danger, but as neutral space. This is the shift from attachment-driven regulation to self-directed emotional stability. Structure replaces longing, routine replaces rumination, and internal order restores psychological safety. Silence no longer triggers panic when the nervous system recognizes stability without external attachment. The mind regains clarity when emotional regulation is self-sustained rather than dependent on relational feedback. This is where discipline becomes medicine, calming the system through predictable patterns and grounded self-control. Regulation restores identity, allowing the self to exist without needing constant emotional reinforcement from another person. The silence transforms from threat into space, from danger into neutrality, from loss into quiet strength. Your nervous system learns that safety can exist without proximity, without reassurance, and without emotional dependency. This is the restoration of internal authority over emotional states, where stability is no longer outsourced. Silence becomes peaceful when the system recognizes it no longer signals abandonment or threat. At this stage, attention returns inward, no longer scanning for external validation or emotional rescue. The nervous system stabilizes through repetition, predictability, and disciplined self-regulation practices. What once felt like unbearable absence becomes manageable space when internal regulation replaces relational dependence. The mind no longer obsesses because the body no longer signals danger in the absence of emotional contact.